Hey, greetings from the backyard. Cheers. The rains are done. The sun has come out, and it is a beautiful day in this backyard. And that is why I actually brought you guys back here to talk about this little rock right here. So last week, we just had some incredible rains. The greatest rains that we've had in San Diego while we've lived at this house for 7 years. And we have always had this rock back here, in the backyard. But that rock has moved. The rock has moved. And I know that sounds so Easter, and it is, and this is so timely. But that rock used to sit like up, like that right there. And somehow during those rains, the ground loosened up. And the rock fell over, and we didn't discover it until the last few days where I had the boys out here, total slave labor, trimming trees and cutting down grass and everything. It's homeschool, right? But as I thought about the rock that fell over, the rock that moved during Easter, the reason why that rock fell over or rolled over is because the ground loosened up so much. All the water took what was absolutely rigid. The soil, this dirt here in our backyard was so rigid. It was like concrete. So there was no way that rock was ever going to move. We've stood on it. We jumped on it. We've even bumped a quad into it. That rock never moved before, nor would it even wiggle. However, after the rains, that just rigidity of the soil loosened up in such a way that the rock just went just fell over. And in fact, the soil all around here loosened up in such a way that our poor neighbors have experienced mudslides. A fence came crashing down that had been up for years and years and years. But basically, the soil had loosened up. And things that had never moved before or were too rigid before have changed position. And that reminded me so much of a Zoom community call that we had with Uncommon Good last night, and everyone was talking about what has changed during this lockdown. All things have changed in our lives. Work has changed, income has changed, schedules have changed, kids, school, all of that has changed. Being able to just hang out with friends has changed. Being able to hang out with family has changed, and that actually has caused tough times with relationships, understanding that you can't connect with one another, and so much has changed in this season. And I'm wondering, our question was last night is like, what's gonna last? What will last out of this change of season in your life? What good will come out of the lockdown that you've experienced in the last several weeks? Will anything last, or will we snap back to normal? So when we were talking about this last night, one of our friends on the Zoom call said that his young son, 6 years old, pointed out that people have changed. And his son said, "Daddy," on a walk, they encountered all these neighbors, and his son said, "Daddy, people are nicer now." That's true, and I've seen it. We all paused in our Zoomunity call, right? Zoom community, and we were like, yeah, people have gotten nicer, right? At least we've seen it in our neighborhood. We're waving, we're talking to neighbors. We avoid each other so as not to infect one another at the same time. But everyone smiles. Like, you see another human, and immediately right now, because of all that is happening on the globe, you have commonality with every human that you encounter with. Last night I was reflecting on it. It's like an awakening of connection with every human you encounter. And it's like, you're in it, I'm in it, we're in it together. And there's beauty in that. That is something that we hope will last. That is something that maybe we didn't see before changed, it shifted, and now there is a little more love, a little more understanding, and a little more commonality with any human face you encounter. That is a good thing that we pray will last. Another thing that we prayed would last was having time for one another. Just yesterday morning, we had so many people in the community come out to surprise a 9-year-old, little Camille, for her birthday. We had all these people line up, social distancing in their cars, and we did the drive-by quarantine parade for Camille. Her parents set up a little tent so she would be in the shade, and Camille and her family came out, and just so many cars after one another just coming by with happy birthday wishes on the cars. You'll have to check it in our videos, but it was beautiful. And what we heard from Camille's parents afterwards is that she hasn't smiled and laughed like that in weeks. That these people dropping their schedules, because maybe they had no schedules right now, that the fact that they dropped their time, their schedules loosened up in such a way to allow them to get out and just do something nice for someone. I pray that out of this time, that maybe our schedules won't tighten up and get so rigid again and so inflexible that we won't be able to drop everything to simply do a drive-by of love for someone else's life. That's where it ties into the stone, this lockdown, this dramatic change. And believe me, there's so many tough times. I'm not diminishing the roughness of this time, the tragedy of this time, or anything, but looking for the good in this time is what we have seen is that the soil of our schedules, the rigidity of our busyness has loosened up to where so many people in our communities around the world are doing good things for others because they simply have the time in their schedule. That the rock has shifted. The rock has moved because busyness is no longer mandating your time, but the drive of your heart has the time to live out its greatest intentions to love others. And that, what a beautiful thing. I pray that lasts. The great question right now for all of us is to reflect what will last, what good will last out of this time. What will change? What will change in our world? What hopefully won't snap back to just habit and being ran by busyness? What will change in our nation and our state? What will change in your neighborhood? Will you keep smiling and connecting with others and just being happy to see another human because we're in this global life thing together? We have a common enemy, the virus. We also have a common drive for life and love. And may that make smiles happen on faces rather than looking down and just getting done with your walk so you can get to the next thing, right? What will change with your family? We had Rachel and our son had a 2-hour Settlers of Catan game over video with families, 50 miles from here last night. Will that continue, or would you just not have the time after schoolwork and dinner and bedtime and all that? What will change in your friend groups? What will change in your family? And what will change in you after this time? So I want to close those thoughts. I pray that this time will be redeemed for you. I have a brother, I'm getting messages. I have a brother who lives on redemption. I have a brother who collects things that have been discarded and seen as waste, and he goes and turns them in for cash value that gets his daily food and his daily sustenance. That word redemption is not just about recycling, right? And getting things that were seen as waste and discarded and getting value out of them, but that's redemption, the California redemption value on our aluminum cans, right? My brother understands that greatly. But also I think we all understand that greatly, and we have a hope that this time will be redeemed, that value will come out of this lockdown time for all of us. There's also a title of God called the Redeemer. He has that title because all throughout human history and the life of this planet and the life of the however billions of years our universe has gone, but especially with human history, there have always been messes to hopefully get value out of, right? There's always been plagues to hopefully get value out of. There's been wars that have brought great tragedy, but hopefully value will come out of it to change humanity. God has the title of Redeemer for a reason, because I believe that as we lay open our hearts to God and ask that he meet us in this, that he would hear us and that he would redeem it. And he would bring value out of what has been seen as waste and discard. The Redeemer is there for you in this time. And I pray that as you reflect on what will change in your life, maybe you just say, God, if you're there, can you redeem this time in my life? Maybe can you redeem this relationship that I have with you, God? And maybe you can redeem my life and bring value out of some things that had been snuffed out and were too rigid because of busyness and schedule. May God shift the rocks that were too immovable in our lives, right? May they not go back for the better, right? Maybe some things will come back, like paychecks and work and health for our nation and our globe. Absolutely. Pray those come back. But may good that we've seen in humanity during this time not shift back to when we were too busy to smile and love one another. I want to close with a psalm, and I know this is a long devo for those of you who have listened for 10 minutes. I want to close you out with a psalm. This is from Psalm 130. And he is crying out to God to meet him in a time of tragedy and crisis and change. And that fits so well for this time. And maybe this would lead you to just ask God to hear you, to listen hard to you, and to redeem this time. So here's Psalm 130 for you and for me and for our world today. It says, help God. Help me, God. The bottom has fallen out of my life. Lord, hear our cries for help. Listen hard. Open your ears, God. Listen to my cries for help and mercy. If you, God, kept records on wrongdoings, who would stand a chance? But as it turns out, forgiveness is your habit. I love that. I'm going to say that again. As it turns out, God, forgiveness is your habit. And that's why you're worshiped. So I pray to God. My life is a prayer every day. I pray to God and I wait for what he'll say and do next. My life is on the line before God. My Lord, I'm waiting and watching till morning. So, O nation, wait and watch for God, because with God's arrival in your life comes love, and with God's arrival comes generous redemption. No doubt about it, he will redeem. If you lean on God and shift your perspective, he can redeem this time. And I pray that the soil has loosened up in your life to maybe shift some things that needed shifting. And that some things would absolutely stay. There's no way we're moving that rock again. It's stuck. And I pray some good out of this time for humanity will also stick. That we will learn to open our eyes, awaken to the connection of other humans. Awaken to love, awaken to smiles, awaken to dropping our schedules for time to give laughs and giggles to someone who desperately needs it because we set aside our time to love them. I pray those thoughts benefit you today. And thanks for watching these videos and hearing our thoughts about a God that loves you, wants to connect with you, and that gives you hope every single day. So peace, love, and we'll see you soon.